Okay, we'll call this meeting of the School Building Committee to order. First item on our agenda is the approval of the January 27, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Chris McNabo, and second, Chris Kiefner, I think. Any corrections?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay, go ahead,
It's
Chris.
very simple. It's that principal is PAL. It's Lauren is labeled as a principal. She's a principal.
She's the most important thing. Okay, Tasha, you get that? Okay, if there are no other corrections, then all in favor of approving the minutes, give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. That brings us then to our OPM update. Adam?
Everyone. So today, generally want to go over just a quick review of kind of where we're at in the building. Another quick update on geothermal, but mostly spend time looking at schedule. And so I'll go through my items and then kind of give you the rundown of what's gone on with the schedule the past week or two, and then largely just have some pose some questions to Al and have him sort of go through and walk through where we're at and what's coming forward. So in general, building is still focused on the roof, but there's a lot of work ongoing for the exterior sheathing and as well as some of the interior work. And that's sort of been the latest development, is getting some work done in the interior of the building while some of the exterior components are still being buttoned up. So in terms of the roofing work, it's been just shift over to roof on A. A lot of the flat roof on B is complete, and we're looking to get the sloped portions of the roof on B complete shortly. And in terms of the interior progress, we've got interior wall framing going on in area B, mostly a focus on the lower level where they've got the slab deck to protect it, so they can get a lot of work done on that lower level in B, as well as some duct installation for the HVAC system. Some other activities that are ongoing, there's an exterior wall kickoff meeting for some of the siding and those components. So as we look forward towards getting into those portions of the work. And we had a coordination meeting with town IT insofar as kind of projecting out for the fiber run for the internet to the building and how that wants to work and the scheduling there. So getting ahead of that type of coordination. And we also had bids received for the upcoming intersection work at the end of Warrenville Road there. So those bids come in and those are being analyzed now. So that'll be wrapped up and we'll have probably the next meeting, I imagine, some recommendations there to proceed with that work. In terms of geothermal, there hasn't really been progress on that because the ground's been frozen and didn't want to do rework in frozen ground where they're not going to be able to complete the work there. So that is still the same status as it was 2 weeks ago. And as soon as the weather warms up and there isn't snow on the ground, they'll be able to continue with the rework there under the supervision of the town and Colliers and Coleraine. The items, questions there before we go on to schedule?
Chris Kiefner.
That one there. I just want to thank you for doing that. I was actually going to ask you for one of those because you've been avoiding it for a little while, and I'm glad to see us have a schedule and get a better sense of what's what. I know you put aside the just simplified one. It was amazing to look at the detailed version. It really is amazing to see all the pieces going on and the parts of the puzzle that need to be put together. So thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and moving forward, there should be a schedule, whatever the current schedule update is posed with the committee packets. You always have whatever's most current to look at. All right, so moving in, if there's nothing else, I'll move into the schedule overview. So Colliers received Newfield schedule update, the January schedule update. We received a copy on February 1st, and we had a couple of requests from Al, and he updated those over a couple iterations for the February 6th version. I looked at it, and Joe Luciano from Colliers also looked at it. And ultimately, we rejected that schedule update due to some missing data on there that is required from the schedule. Just from a high level overview, there's some definition on critical with some of the town activities, such as FF&E move in, those types of things, and also some breakout of items. Some of the critical site work that's going to be needed for part of the building that needed to be shown on the schedule. We've met with Al, and Al's updating that, and we expect to receive that at the end of the week, insofar as a fully updated version of the schedule to meet those criteria that are required. So as of right now, Colliers still hasn't seen a January update that has all those bits and components for us to be able to say, yes, the work is on track, or no, the work is not on track. Well, what I was going to do is identify some questions for Al and just let him walk through the schedule and have him sort of explain where we're at and why things have changed or haven't changed since the last time we met. To be fair, at this point, Colliers questions whether or not all the work can be done by mid-August without some sort of extra Saturday from Newfield. But again, to be fair to Al, I want Al to be able to talk through their plan of work and where they're headed and where we're are in terms of completion of the school. So Al, just in general, are we on track for a mid-August substantial completion date?
Right now, yes, we are.
Okay, so we had heard some discussion of delays due to roofing and weather and that kind of thing. So those don't appear to be an issue right now. What's changed since 2 weeks ago and 2 weeks before that?
Okay. Simply put, the roofing in our schedule, we had driving the interior work. So basically our schedule said we have to do roofing before we can start framing walls in the lower level of B. But we're able to frame walls in lower level of B without the roof being on. We're actually able to do quite a bit of work down there. The only work that we could not do without a roof would be insulation and drywall. So I took the roofing part of B off the critical path and made the critical path go to insulation and drywall. And what that did was it alleviated the delays from the roofing. Because if we did have the roofing, if we kept on going on the path with the roofing being the driver, there would have been several weeks of a delay. As it is right now, we're proceeding with the interior work, which is on schedule. We're just waiting for the roofing to catch up. So the game plan is to finish the roof in time for the insulation and drywall to begin. We had a meeting with the roofing contractor today. He is working tomorrow and Saturday on the slope portions of B South, and he will be working on B North sloped roofs next week. So the game plan is to have B with a watertight roof by the end of next week. That allows us to do everything in area B, upper and lower floors. And I'll show you with the photos how we're progressing in those areas. So there will be no delay, roofing delays. We kind of worked around it. That's our term for making up. So in this case, we were able to work around the roofing delays.
And you had said that Silton's now planning to work on Saturday to keep the B work roofing ongoing with the slope roof. Is that right?
Yeah, I did talk to them today. They're a union, so a Saturday work for them is time and a half, no matter if it's 40 hours or not. So if they miss a day during the week, if they work Saturday, they still get overtime. That's the way the union contract reads. So we're putting the bill for them to come in tomorrow. Next week, this week was beautiful. We had some really great weather. You'll see the progress on the roofing that we had this week. Next week, it's it's turning cold again. We're going to be in the teens overnight. So it may be a little more challenging next week to get the roof done that we want to get done. So.
We had previously talked about some support areas for the building not being ready by substantial completion, or there was a danger of them not being ready. Is that still the case, or is this mid-August substantial completion inclusive of all those support areas?
I think the only area in conflict that we're going to have is the FF&E and the gym. The gym roof decking is coming next Friday. We got confirmation today, and that's right on the schedule they gave us. And that looks like the finishing of the gym comes very close to our end date, which is the end of August, which doesn't give us a lot of time for the FF&E to come into the gym when they want to come in. So we have to work around that issue with the gym. I think everything else in area A and area B, we will definitely have ready for August.
The update that you're working on for the end of the week, that will include indications of where FF&E can start coming in certain areas, correct, as part of the activity breakdown?
Yes. Yeah. I'm meeting with the site contractor tomorrow, and we're going to finalize the site schedule for the spring and summer and fall. So that should be ready tomorrow as well.
Can you talk a bit about what the current risks are for the critical path in the project in general? So procurement, installation, weather, whatever. What are the risks that we need to keep our eyes on?
The biggest thing that we see is procurement. We've gotten dates from contractors who have given us letters from the subs that material is going to be on site on this date. And then we find out a week before it's due that, oh, it's not coming this date, it's coming 3 weeks later. So that's like an unknown situation that has been happening throughout the job. So that is a definite risk. That's probably the biggest risk we have right now is the supply chain issues.
I know that the metal deck at the gym was a concern, so it's good to hear that that's coming on time now. Are there any others that you're tracking that you foresee as being a potential problem? You know, obviously the unknown black swan ones we can't predict, but in terms of, you know, risk that you're hearing from your coworkers or anything like that, are there any outstanding procurement items or delivery items that you're tracking now as a concern?
Everything on our procurement log has a date to it that fits into our schedule, right? So right now we're not tracking anything that's going to come. It's going to be a scheduled bust for us. Like I say, unless we get notice that, hey, we thought we could get it to you in this date, but it's not coming until this date. So that's the concern.
Those dates are all from the vendors themselves, and that was their initial thought. And what you're talking about is something that they changed their mind or they couldn't get it in time. But initially, those dates that you baked into your schedule were based on the conversations with the vendors, correct?
Correct. And you know, we have confirmation from the manufacturers in some cases where they're giving us dates, and then, well, they're giving our subcontractor the dates, and then they're getting close to that date, and then they're sending revised dates. So that is something we do have to pay very close attention to.
What about installation and testing? So, you know, we all, for the past couple of weeks, have been tracking geothermal. That had some, let's call them bumps in the road insofar as the installation and quality of work there. What are you guys doing in terms of QA, QC and checking, so that way we don't think we're on a certain path and we have things done and then find out, oops, it didn't pass test and we have to redo work?
Yeah, we are bringing in a separate super. He should be here within the next 2 weeks. So that will give Ray more time to spend with quality control. That's our biggest thing right now, increasing the manpower. And then we also have the ability to go with a 2-shift work schedule if we need to with the 2 supers, which is always a good thing. We've done it before at the Ray and I both did it together at Bloomfield High School, which worked very well.
Is that, Al, is that something you're contemplating starting sometime soon, going to the two shifts, or is there something that would trigger that?
Yeah, if we see something that would affect the end date, we would definitely go to either, if it was a short-term thing, we would just probably do Saturdays. If it was more critical than that, we would probably go to a 2-shift. Because that, you don't want to start a 2-shift if it's only going to be a few days. You want it to be, if you're going to have a night shift, it's going to be, 2, 3, 4 weeks at least.
And when you frame in like certain areas, like, lower level of B, are you able to bring in multiple groups of subcontractors, do MEP and electrical and all that kind of stuff? Can they all work in there together? Or does it get too crowded?
They kind of follow each other. Like the framer will go first. The electrician will follow the framer, setting his boxes and conduits. The door frames go in with the walls. Ductwork kind of goes in first before the framer even gets there. Kind of get his stuff in the air before he has to deal with walls. But it's a progression. The guys all work together and they follow a certain path all the way through that area. So they're all used to the routine. There are multiple trades working in areas at one time, though, yes.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, Al, could you just re-clarify perhaps for me, you're getting the decking in for the gym next Friday?
Yep.
Right? But you're still concerned about being ready for August because of the gym, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that feels like a lot of time given how quickly things seem to be as you're closing things in and as you're making stuff happen. What are the slow points along that track, along getting the gym ready?
Okay,
thinking of the
so-
FF&E, but just thinking of use of the space.
Right. All right. So once the decking goes on, we have to do the roofing, which is probably a couple of weeks in that area. And then once it's closed in, we have to frame the exterior walls. We have to get it, the temporary barriers on the windows so we don't lose heat. We got to get the heat going in there, and it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we'll have the slab thawed out. And at that point, we could start pouring the slabs at the stage, at the mechanical rooms, and the main part of the gym. So that may take a couple of months just to get to that point, which puts us March, March, April. So if it goes quicker, that's great. If it goes longer, that's not so great. But I mean, I'm not talking, our schedule right now, it has the punch list running past our end date.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll be working in there while you're setting up for school, it's that sort of thing. As long as we have a punch list created, it's not an issue for us. If the punch list is not created, we don't want a lot of people in there, causing damage. That's the only thing.
Okay, Tony?
You talk about the gymnasium wing, but the gymnasium also includes the library and the cafeteria.
Yep.
Can you talk about the likelihood that either of those facilities won't be ready?
No, we have, both of those are on schedule to be complete by the end date. Both of those, the 2-story section of area C by the gym. Yep.
And I mean, you were talking about FF&E for that area. Were you talking about kitchen equipment or something else?
No, the FF&E is your furniture.
Staging.
And I guess the plan was a staging area for the FF&E would be the gym.
So when
there is
the
staging.
FF&E comes, they have to disassemble it. They have boxes everywhere. So a gym is a good place to do that. That's what we're referring to.
Oh, okay.
So if FF&E takes a priority over construction, you'll get all your FF&E, but the gym won't get complete, basically. because we can't work together in that area probably.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam,
I think Steve has a question.
oh, Steve, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
That's good. Al, thanks for the update. I'm encouraged to hear that there's still some flex in the schedule between Saturdays and double shifts. And I understand right now we're pretty comfortable that we'll hit the date. But would it make sense to move to double shifts early, just so we have a little bit of flex in case we do encounter more of these procurement issues? We're not up against the wall without the ability to have that option.
Yeah, we'll look at that. Once we get our second super on, we'll get him accustomed. He's got to acclimate to the job for a couple of weeks, to know all the players and learn our schedule and so on and so forth. So once we get him on board, and if we're getting close to the timeline that puts us at the deadline, yeah, we could certainly do a double shift to try to get ahead of the schedule.
That'd be great. Thank you for that.
Steve, when we're, okay, go ahead.
If I could just explain the advantage of doing a second shift, especially with union work, it's pretty inexpensive. It's like $1 more an hour per, well, it used to be like $1 more an hour per guy for a night shift. Maybe it's $2 an hour now, but it's pretty low money. And if the sub has the manpower, it's a good alternative to doing Saturdays where you're paying time and a half.
I was going to say, Steve, that's also something that Colliers looks at when we're doing our schedule review, not just does it have ideas, but are there certain sequences that can target potentially, and then ask Al the question, hey, does it make sense to pull this forward? And even if Al is confident that they're going to hit their date, that's something that the committee could consider is, well, do we want it even sooner and accelerating the schedule versus just making up the schedule via double shift. So that's something we're looking at also for on behalf of the town. And if something comes up, there's an opportunity, we'll present it.
Chris McAvoy.
So Al, it doesn't make any sense now to do a double shift because you can't get enough work accomplished because of the state of the building with the roof and the enclosures, or and the cold. Is that what I'm hearing, kind of?
Yeah, we're kind of at the point where we're good with the manpower we have to keep going per our schedule. We don't have other areas opened up that we can go to or start. So for right now, it doesn't make any sense to go to 2 shifts. We just have half the number of guys working during the day and the other half working at night, probably.
The one thing I had in terms of the questions was, do you see any issues with we're talking about the building a lot, but in terms of the site, and so those last mile items, we've got demolition of the existing building and then some bus loops and temporary items. Do you see any of those being a potential hit to the schedule later down the road, obviously?
No, as long as we get the building when we had it scheduled to get it, I think we'll be fine. I don't really see any problems. We met with the abatement engineer and went through everything that needed to be done, went through what he thought the schedule should be, and it matched ours. So no, we think we're okay with that, the schedule that we have.
Adam, I think I heard you say at the top that there were a few things in the critical path schedule that we were given that might still be missing. And so there's a revision that's going to be coming along.
So Joe was talking with Al earlier today about the critical path one that we just got had, for example, the bar that's today, what's going on the critical path today was missing. So Al was updating those. We've not received it yet, but this happened, a couple hours ago. So the critical path one that I just sent out today is one thing. The full schedule that after Al's done with his site meetings tomorrow and bakes in all the items, that's the more, we'll call it the more important one, because it will help ensure that all the required pieces and parts are together and not just what's once on the critical path. You'll be able to see if something might be missing from the critical path, or there might be some links, and where does the town's operations tie in, and what communications we need to do right now so that it doesn't become a problem later. All that gets baked into the full schedule update. So, and that's forthcoming from now.
Okay, and that's something that that can be forwarded to the committee once
Oh, yeah.
that's finalized.
And that doesn't need to be part of a committee packet. I can just email it out.
Are there other questions for Al? Steve, go ahead.
All right, just in terms of making sure Al gets the building on time, maybe a question for Kelly. Are we over our allotment for snow days? Are we pushing school year back at all because of snow days at this point?
No, we're not over our allotment. We've had some conversation about this with Newfield. We build 5 days into our calendar, or we've only had 3. So we're hoping that we stick to the 5. Actually, there are other strategies we can use if we end up with more than 5, but we're committed to getting kids and staff out of the school by the date that we've agreed to with Newfield.
Great, thank you so much.
It strikes me as moving your watch ahead, that kind of thing with absence days. Anyhow, Al, I just want to say, I think it's great. I hope other people agree to do a double shift, far better than the Saturday thing in terms of getting a rhythm going, in terms of just the number of hours alone that you can apply to it. That's the most attractive thing to me. And of course, we all want to get this thing done on time. And have you worked with this? I missed it if you said it. Have you worked with the guy who's coming in? Have you and Ray been with him before, the second supervisor?
We don't know who it is yet. We just spoke to our boss over this past week.
He's sending you his best man, huh? Or woman?
Apparently.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So then I think, once we get an updated schedule, I think that we would like a report on each meeting on how we're doing vis-a-vis that schedule, whether there's been items that come up that we're behind on, or we're doing great work and we're ahead of schedule. That'd be fantastic. But we'd like that, a report on that every meeting.
Once we get closed in, there won't be as many problems hopefully there won't be as many problems with the schedule, because right now we're still dealing with weather, so if we're closed in, if we got a roof on and temporary enclosures at all the windows, we don't have any more weather delays, which is good.
And when, remind me, when is the roof going to be on area A?
Area A, the flat portion of the roof is complete. And once they're finished with the flat, the sloped roofs in B, they'll go and do the flat roofs in A. And in A, you have in the front where our trailer is, the flat part of the admin wing there, that's the metal roof.
Yes.
And then on the back side, you have a sloped roof with rubber. So the metal roof is in Silktown shop. And they're waiting for a delivery day to bring it. So we might even see that on site and up on the roof next week, depending on weather.
Okay. Great. Okay, then Adam, does that conclude your report? For now, I know
Does.
coming back to talk about a few other procurement items and so on later, but.
Yep.
Okay. Then architects update. Richard or Jeff?
Yes, hi, good evening. I'll start. I have participated in some of the scheduling discussions. I did look at the Newfield schedule. And I'm not optimistic about the completion and being able to move children in time for September. I hate to say that, but that's my opinion. Just to put it in perspective, Newfield's original contract was for achievement of substantial completion on July 1. Not long after that contract was signed, there was a change order change order number 1 for legitimate reasons, then moved the completion date to July 15th. So what started out as about a 2-month period of time to finish fitting out with furniture and getting teachers in and getting them ready for school, doing punch lists and final cleanup, shrank to 6 weeks. And the last I heard was, looking at the Newfield schedule, was they're now looking at a completion date of August 12th. So the amount of time that's left to do all of that completion work has shrunk even more. And I believe Newfield is proposing a change order to authorize the building committee to make that change from its present date, July 15th, to August 12th. And I can't be supportive of that change order, quite frankly. That change order also has some costs associated with it. So I don't know if Adam will be prepared to talk about that change order tonight, but I'm not comfortable with it.
We just received it today, so I've not had a chance to review. It's in my inbox, but yes, what Rich is referring to is the delay from the metal deck procurement. Has been attending the job site trailer meetings. There's been this target August 17th substantial completion date in light of the procurement issues for the metal roof deck, where, for lack of a better term, there's only the one manufacturer and they couldn't get out roof deck due to COVID procurement constraints. So that's what the PCO is that Rich is referring to. But like I said, that just came back today, and so we've not had a chance to review yet.
And additionally, asked when furniture can be brought into the building. There was talk about maybe bringing it in as each wing is being completed, but that's not on the schedule. I know there's talk about maybe bringing all the furniture into the gymnasium and using the gymnasium as an unpacking, assembly, and staging area. That's not an easy thing to do. In my conversations with Susan, best case scenario, you could maybe do that in a 3-week period. Best case scenario. I don't think you have time. And to make matters even worse, Newfield's schedule calls for the start of demolition of Southeast School in June, right after school's out. Given the uncertainty about completing and having enough time to do the furniture, I'm not sure that you should move out of Southeast School and make way for demolition and abatement in June. Because if you don't hit that date for school to start in September, those children have no place to go. So there's some critical dates here that we're facing. And I think that's really the critical item. Should they start demolition of Southeast School, or should it be postponed? I think that this scheduled discussion needs to be continued. And if Newfield is proposing additional hours, that's great. If they're proposing to work on Saturdays, that's great. But I think we're really running out of time on whether or not you can vacate Southeast School in June. That's my view.
So I don't know, Al or Adam, if you have a response to that. What drives the change to the August date in terms of how that date would be decided?
You talk about from mid-July to August, that change?
Yeah.
So that, the change order that we just received will be based on the anticipated date of delivery of the deck versus when it came up on site. So there's a certain number of days there. That's the number of days that Newfield is making a claim for, insofar as they were ready to put up deck, but they couldn't have deck because of extenuating circumstances. And that's the substantiation for said delay. So like I said, that's what we have to review and see if we agree with the calculations, but that would be the basis for changing it to August 12th, or I think that's what Richard said this latest PCO is indicating. So that's the answer to that question. Insofar as Richard's comments with regard to just ability to get the work done, as I said earlier, Collier shares that concern without the acceleration and I'm sorry, not acceleration, without the additional shifts and Saturday work. So again, to echo Richard's sentiment, if Newfield's planning to do that to meet the schedule date, that's great, and that's probably what will be needed to make this have a chance of hitting that revised substantial completion date in August.
I don't know, Al, do you have anything you want to respond?
No, we've just had these delays that really have pushed our work out, the month or whatever it was, we had the deck delay, we had the unsuitable soils, and it's just one thing after another. I don't know.
I don't want to put Kelly or Kathy or MBOE on the spot, but and that's fine if maybe it's not ready for prime time. I just didn't know what the latest thinking or discussion was. If opening the doors, on time, if that was not going to happen. Just to Richard's point about Southeast School and the demolition of the old building, what is the latest contingency planning or thinking about where 3 schools worth of kids go? Is it the 2 remaining schools? Would it require Southeast? Would there be a preference for delaying demolition of Southeast and using Southeast for the kids that normally go there? Is there any thought on that?
I'm happy to jump in on that. I appreciate the concerns that have been expressed, and I also appreciate Newfield's efforts to get us in there for the start of school. But I think we've all known since the start of this project, if we've been honest with ourselves, that we were building the school on a tight timeline. And so our conversations and thinking at the administrative level have been the what if questions for some time. I have also, I have some concerns about not doing the demolition to Southeast on the long-term effect that would have if we moved students into the school without having been able to prepare the site where Southeast is currently resides. And I think it's probably imperative that we make sure Southeast does get demolished this summer, so that even if the school does not open for September 6th, which is our proposed first day of school, that we at least are working towards a time when we can be in the building and the site is sufficient for us to be there as well. So with regards to your question about can you make it work, plan A, perfect plan, is that the building's finished and we're in, but there are other ways to do this. And, many of us have worked or attended schools that have been very crowded, and somehow we, put a few programs on carts, as we call it, rather than giving a music room its own space. We move the music teacher from classroom to classroom, and we do some other creative things that are not easy to manage long-term. But if you're talking short-term with the excitement and anticipation of moving into a new building, I think we can all get through some crowding for a period of weeks. I think what's more critical is knowing when we need to activate Plan B. So I can start work. And as I said, there's already been a lot of thought and conversation about this. I can start work on every detail that needs to be put into place for a Plan B, but I'm going to need to know with enough lead time to execute the plan. The greatest concern, 2 great concerns actually. One is moving staff. some staff are going to have to move twice, which is fine. We just need to tell them how to pack, right? So we need to know this information fairly early to create a moving plan. The other thing is transportation. You know that the last thing we would want to do is disrupt the experience for children. And so whatever teacher a child was assigned to start the school year should be the teacher they have for the full school year, which means when you think about moving into 2 buildings, it's not as simple as taking all of the children at Southeast School and splitting them across 2 schools. We need a plan that puts different grades in different buildings. And so that will require a different transportation plan, and that could take some work to develop. Although I have to say, they have some pretty sophisticated software these days that does a lot of the planning for you. But still, I guess my request from the position of the superintendent is that I appreciate all the efforts that have gone on around this timeline, and I would like, really would like students and teachers to be in there for the first day of school. But if that's not going to happen, please don't wait until some critical moment in June when you realize you've only got 6 weeks left and we're not going to make it. I mean, I would really like to know with enough advance warning to prepare people. We also have to prepare people emotionally as well for that. We've set the expectation that we'll be in a new building. We can definitely still be excited about moving into a new building a little bit later, but it is an adjustment in people's emotional thought about that.
Chris Kiefer and then Chris McNamara.
Can you again further clarify sort of what you don't expect to be ready? Here's where I'm headed with this question. And Kelly, this is partly for you and partly for Al to respond as well. What if we were to concentrate, and for all the times we've said it, parts A, B, and C, I still don't have them now. But if we were to concentrate on finishing the gym, the gym, cafeteria, and the 1, 2, 3, 4 wings, and hold off on the pre-KK wings, those kids could conceivably go to one of the other schools for a stretch if we could get it done, if that's reasonable at all. Is that the sort of thing that's possible or reasonable or realistic, Al? And Kelly, is that at all appealing to even pursue? I mean, before Al bothers with it?
You have to also think about what else is in that pre-KK wing.
It's the classroom areas that I'm thinking of, just like the offices.
Right, I realize that, but that's what I mean. There are some other offices too. I need to think about how much disruption that is. In all honesty, it's probably easier for us to deal without a gym than it is to deal without some number of classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least then we can build out the community of the school.
Hey, Chris McNamara.
So Kelly, what is the timeframe that you would like to know? I mean, you said not in June, but are you thinking you really need to know by April 15th? That would be the best. And Al, is that a reasonable thing to know at that stage?
Sure, yeah, I think if you wanted to do April 15th or June 1st even, and look at our current schedule, look at the materials that we need to finish and where they are, if they're on site or if they're in someone's shop. We could always make a decision. I think you should have a plan B, number one, just in case, which I think you do. If we're not going to tear down the existing school, that's your plan B, right? You would just stay there. But we'd also have to figure out a plan B for once the building is done, when are we gonna demo the school? And what are you gonna do for a parent drop off? So those are 2 things that you have to think about. So, I mean, we can all get together with Colliers on May 15th or June 1st, see where we're at with the schedule, and then make a decision from there.
So June 1st, June 1st is too late. Just want to put that on the table. I don't have an exact date, but June 1st is too late.
We can do it May
Randy,
15th.
if I may, just to the
Go ahead,
committee.
go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
we have been already, behind the scenes, having some very spirited discussions about this and been looking into, some of the Plan B options. And as Kelly had stated, focusing on academic areas and potentially weather is really great in the early fall. If we didn't have a gym right away, that might not be a huge consequence. So, just to let the committee know, this isn't something that just transpired today. And as you've heard Adam's detailed overview of the construction schedule between he and Joe Luciano from our staff and myself working with Al, this schedule is going to be tracked under a microscope. And, we are pushing as a team for Al, and as he stated, to start working some Saturdays, look at pulling some second shift work when appropriate to get us back on schedule. So, I think all along, we've got to make sure that we've got a schedule in place that achieves the final goal and that it's not slipping at all. And if it does slip, we immediately start working on course correction. Yes, we are looking at a Plan B, but again, we have discussed the implications of leaving the existing school, and I'll chime in and agree with Al's statement. For this new school to open, we need a parent drop-off. We need that new building down. If you didn't demolish it, trying to get the site work, the parking lots and everything to support that building by the end of the fall, most likely would not be achievable. And then parking lots, disruption on that site, work on that school would go into the springtime because you're going to lose your asphalt plants. So, I think in any scenario that we've discussed and we're looking at in detail, in any scenario, demolishing that building, getting a temporary and then final parent drop off and everything in place and getting that building off site is critical path as soon as school's out.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, I think to Scott's point, I would say we've already slipped the schedule. I don't think we need to look for any further ones. I think this just underscores how important it is. We need to pull out every stop at this point. I guess maybe it was just me. I didn't realize we needed 3 to 4 weeks to get all the FF&E installed. I thought that was part of this whole timeline. But if we have to have the school finished and then that all starts, that wasn't in the timeline, then we can't expect that to happen overnight. Now is the time to pull out all the stuff. So we have 6 months between now and when it's supposed to be finished. So we have time to make corrections. If we wait 3 months before we start doing double shifts and Saturdays and stuff, we have a lot less time. So I think it just underscores how quickly we'd like to see that second supervisor on site and all these extra hours start accumulating before we don't have those options anymore. And I didn't want to bring it up, but I think the only non-unanimous vote we ever had as a committee was at the beginning when we talked about that first 2-week extension. And we voted in favor of that as a show of good faith to Newfield that we were trying to start our relationship off on a good note. This is the time for Newfield to return that favor and really crank up the hours, because we gave you that 2 weeks. It wasn't our fault that we had to do that. We did it to save the relationship. I think now is the time to return that favor.
Yeah, like I said, once we get closed in and weather tight, we'll be able to crank the hours up. But right now, we don't have enough. We're just keeping ahead right now. I mean, we're just keeping pace with what we can do.
And
it's been like that for a couple of months now.
And Al, does that have to be the entire building, or can it just be wings A and B?
We're concentrating on wings A and B. I mean, they're working on C right now, but that's not our primary focus. When we talked a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, it was always we would get A and B 100% complete and let Jim finish up where it finishes up. They didn't need it when school opened. That was the discussion we had. So that's how we've been proceeding.
But in terms of if you were to start double shifting, could you start it when A and B are enclosed, or do you need the whole thing to be enclosed?
Oh, no, definitely. Once A and B are enclosed and weather tight, we'll be able to get 2 shifts in there, no problem.
Okay, I hoped that we would have the full schedule kind of at the end of January. I guess we have some things that need to be fleshed out yet, but we want to be tracking that then really, really closely as we go forward, and anything we can do to speed things up would be very welcome.
Yep.
Mary?
I just want to say, very well said, Steve. I couldn't agree with you more. Kelly, I appreciate your positivity. I think it's fabulous. And all that you'd have to do to make this happen is mind-boggling to me. And I'm going to say, and I don't know if anybody else as a community member feels this, but I feel emphatically that if we do not open this school with every kid who's supposed to be in that school, we have failed. And I know that that's not really true. And that's why I say, you know, I'm grateful for Kelly's positivity. I know that she will make this okay with our community, but it feels really yucky to me. And I'm gonna have a hard time saying to my neighbors who are sending their kid to this school, no, sorry, you're not going, or you're not going right away. And so Al, after all of that I just needed to get off my chest,
Yep.
if we started to do double shifts, as soon as that person is up to speed, are we looking at, yes, we can open on time, or is that off the table?
The only thing that's going to impact not opening on time is procurement of items. We have enough manpower to get the job. If we have the material physically on site, we will get it installed. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about not having the item to install. That's my biggest fear right now. And it's gotten a lot better. The procurement items have gotten better, but there's still delays out there. There's still delays.
Okay.
And it's beyond our control. We can't install something we don't have.
I know.
And if it's a critical part of the project, like light fixtures or something, then, you know, that affects our work. I could have 100 guys out there, but if I don't have any light fixtures to install, they can't install any.
Okay, Steve?
Is there like an outside the box solution for procurement? Like, can we ask the subs to get their materials on site ahead of time or to a staging area ahead of time? And that way we'll know before we need it and we don't have it, we'll know ahead of time and we can put a little pressure on them to, you know, search far and wide. Or is there some other solution we can come up with other than waiting for like if the sub's supposed to have it there on Friday, can we get it there Thursday or Wednesday, or a week or two or a month or two early, even if it means coming up with alternative staging areas elsewhere in town?
Well, I had roof decking on site 2 months ago. I mean, roof insulation on site 2 weeks ago. So we have probably 8 to 10 storage trailers out there full of pipe and conduit and everything else. So we're getting as much as we can on site, but you know, we can't overload the site either. I mean, stuff that's not due until summer, we won't bring on site until, you know, late spring.
We were able as a town to find you alternative space on other town-owned land and we rented Connex boxes or some type of secure facility. Maybe we found like an underground bunker that the town owned. And we said, hey, you can take all those light fixtures or all those desks or whatever it is that we need that we're worried about procuring. You can store them there. That way, you know, we have them and it doesn't hit us, you know, in May. Oh, we don't have this thing we're waiting on. Would that be helpful for you, or that's not a possible thing?
I mean, if we need extra storage, we would definitely appreciate that. But as of right now, we don't need any extra storage.
And Steve, they've been, when material has come in, it gets stored in a bonded facility. And then part of the pay application are for some of those. So for example, we've got some food service equipment and some cabinetry that they have on site that's stored. It's Mansfield's, it's nobody else's. And they bill for that as part of the stored material. So that it's not like there's a delay on getting it to us necessarily. It's allocated and it's just a matter of bringing it on physically to the site, but it's not at that point, it's not a procurement issue. It's in hands. And like I said, that's for stuff including like I said, food service, which isn't going to come out and be on site until way later down the road, but it's already being brought in and accounted for when it comes in.
Is there anything that we can do, I guess, maybe not bring it on site physically, but how do we address Al's concern? Like here's where I'm coming from. I don't want to wait until it's impacting our schedule to figure out a solution. I'd like to figure out a solution now so that we don't have to wait and get pushed back. Like, what can we do now to react to Al's concern? If he says, I'm worried about procuring stuff, that's totally legitimate given where we're at, but what can we do about that now? Like, let's be proactive about it.
We don't have any issues right now. I mean, we have dates on all our items.
Mhm.
It's when we get close to that date and we get confirmation that, no, it's not coming that date, it's gonna be this date. That's the problem. And if we could be proactive on that, I would be, but if I called that guy today, he'd say, yeah, that's the factory told us it's coming that date. You know, and then we get close to that date and he says, oh, the factory just called me, you know, they don't have the material, it's coming in 2 more weeks. I'm not saying the procurement's a problem. It's a concern.
Yeah.
It's a very concern. And it's the times. It's not normal. This is not normal construction we're dealing with. This is, I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, Chris McNamara?
I think that's what, Steve, I think, you know, what you're saying, let's get this stuff on site. And Al, you're saying you've got dates and then they push the dates out. What if you said, okay, I can take that stuff now. I don't have to wait for that date in March. I can take it now. I think that's more what Steve was talking about. Let's get it on site or wherever. So you're not just going by dates that have been like, you know, mystery dates.
Oh, yeah, no, we have all the material procured. The material is not available yet. That's the problem. So if you buy a car today, it may be 2 months before you get the car. And if they come back in a month and a half and say, oh, your car's not ready yet, it's going to be another month, you know, that's the problem that we may have.
Isn't it just getting the stuff you need when you need it? That's the problem. Like you said, you've got cabinets, or Adam said, you got cabinets, but we don't need them yet. You may need electrical boxes.
We have control over the cabinets, you know, we have.
But that's not needed right now. So that's not a pressure point.
Right, but we know that when we need cabinets, they're going to be here. We know that. It's the stuff that is coming from a manufacturer, like the decking is a perfect example. They gave us one date and then they came back a week before that date and said, oh, no, two of the plants have shut down. We have one plant. We can't handle all the work we have, so your order is being delayed. It's that sort of thing.
It's not a storage issue. It physically doesn't exist to take hold of sooner. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Chris McNamara again?
So Randy, maybe what we need to do is, we're kind of going around in circles here. I think we need to put this on, you know, like you said, put it on the agenda every week that we meet, but we need to have some more time to figure out Plan B. And if Plan B means we're using the other 2 schools, we're not going to use, you know, Southeast so that we can demolish it. What kind of support does Kelly need and does Kathy need to do that? And we just have to kind of keep track of that because we're just kind of going around in circles now.
Yeah, okay. So I think we'll move on then with our discussion this evening. Richard, you started us on this. You have more? An update?
Yeah, no, I don't have any other things to add. I don't know if Jeff needs to report anything, but I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I'm good. I just want to say that I have noticed in the last week, sneaking by there even today, that there are a lot of people cranking on the roof, on the siding, on everything. So there's a lot of people there on the site now. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, if you looked at the video today, which I did a couple of times because I was with some kids, and it's amazing. I mean, people are swarming it. And even some of the photographs, I think either Joe or Adam submitted in those reports they're, nailing the roof. It's great.
Okay,
But I also want to say quickly, I agree with Richard, but I understand Al's position too. There's got to be a way to really iron this out, pull this out, flush this out, figure out what we can bring to the site, what we can't, like what's been commented on, and just move to get this done. Not at expense of the quality, but just to make sure that we get that project done. I say that as a community member and also as part of the team. I mean, we all got to just figure out how to make this happen. And I think, Al, we need a little bit more proaction to figure that out. That's all.
Mary? Yeah, I was gonna say, Mary, did I see your hand? Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Richard one more question. You had mentioned that as the furniture comes in, it being placed at its ultimate destination, versus using the gym for a staging area. Am I hearing you say that you would advocate for that?
So here's the thing, I don't have on the Newfield schedule which wings will be finished and on what dates. You have purchase orders out already issued to furniture vendors. And those furniture vendors during the bid period were given windows of delivery. You need to firm them up. So if we had some assurance about which wings are ready, maybe we can go back to the vendors and say, look, wing A will be ready in July. You need to deliver all your stuff in July or June, if wing B is ready in July, etc. But right now, the vendors don't know that for certain. They were just given tentative windows during the bid period. And we know that, for instance, library shelving is a critical ingredient. It would be great to firm up that date for the library vendor. Shelving will take some time to install in the media center. I think we need to see on the Newfield schedule opportunities for furniture delivery. We may get some pushback from some vendors who will say, no, you gave me a window on bid date. I was going to deliver all of the classroom furniture within that window. And now you're telling me to deliver it piecemeal, wing A, B, C. We'll deal with that when it comes up, but that's potentially some pushback from vendors. I'm just trying to find a way to tackle this problem. If the gym is not going to be ready in time for all of the furniture to be delivered, assembled, and then distributed to the school, maybe there's an alternative method. But I need those dates to have the discussion with furniture vendors.
Okay, that makes sense. And so to Steve's point before, if we had a place for storage, which if we're moving teachers out of 2 other elementary schools, we've got 2 buildings for storage. Does that help, or is that just as bad because now we're unloading it in one place and
They're gonna move it.
They're going to move it twice.
Yeah, right.
Furniture vendors aren't going to want to move it twice. It's going to be extra cost, and there's concern of damage if you're moving it twice. So they really want to bring it and drop it off.
Yeah.
There could be other things that we do as far as temporary staging areas, whether we get the movers to bring a couple of 18-wheelers or box trucks that can be used as unloading temporary storage in assembly areas outside of the building. There are also the moving company, as we're packing up our media centers, we're going to propose that all the books are put on book carts. These are carts specially made to hold books, almost like a movable library stack that can be rolled into the media center. And then once the shelving arrives, quickly unloaded and/or can be used as temporary library shelving. So there's a lot of things that we can coordinate and work with, as things move forward and we get a better indication of exactly what position we're going to be in. We are already discussing those contingency plans. I've had a few conversations with Susan as well. And we're going to be looking to, minimize any disruption to the best of our ability, looking for all these out of the box solutions to make sure that we can hit the final mark.
Thank you.
Okay, then that brings us to our contractor update. Al, you have some pictures for us?
I do. I'll share a screen here. Where are we at? Here we go. Okay, so the first shot here is an aerial view of, this is B wing here. This is the A wing, I want to say, at the connector to C. You can see the flat roof in B here is complete. They're working, this photo was taken a couple of days ago. This A roof, flat roof here is, I think will be complete tomorrow. Saturday, they're coming in, actually, they're going to start this late tomorrow. The PV posts have been installed in this portion of the roof. They're going to come in and start doing roofing on this area over the weekend. Once they're done with this wing, they do this sloped roof, and then all of area B has a roof on it. The steel in the gym has been set and the joists are set, and we're all set for the decking when it arrives next Friday. There's like a side view of, I want to say, the east side. This is the two wings of B. Pretty much done on the sheathing portion. It's another aerial view. You can see A is taking shape. You can see roofing starting in A on the flat area here. It's a higher shot. These are your PV posts that had to get installed before the roofing installation could be laid down, but that's all set now. They're going to be moving over to this roof, get that area done.
Al, are those posts, they go all the way down to the decking? Are they welded on or shot on?
They get attached to the metal decking, yes.
And this is all energy okay with CMTA?
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the plan, Jeff?
These are the posts that
Yes.
hold the support members for your PV panels.
Yeah, there's a special detail for how that terminates around those openings. So that's all been looked at and adjusted and improved. We got all the insulation underneath the full 6 inches. So it's
I'm
no
just
worries.
concerned about the transfer, but if they're familiar with it, calculated it in, great.
Yes.
But the insulation is underneath of that. Is that right, Jeff?
No.
The insulation's on top of the deck.
The
But
posts
my
are on
point,
top of
Randy, is that, and that's what I was asking Al, it goes all the way through to the metal decking and it's either
The
welded or
thermal
shot on.
conductor.
all the posts are they have a base plate and they're screwed to the metal decking.
Okay.
Once it's secured to the deck and complete in that area, then the insulation will go in. You get 2 layers of insulation that go down. And this is a sloped roof, so there's no, it's all consistent. It's all the same thickness insulation. There's no sloped. It's already sloped, so you don't need a tapered insulation system here. So it goes fairly quick. But there are a lot of penetrations now that they have to work with because they have to cut holes in all the insulation to get it over these posts, and then all the rubber they pretty much have to patch in as well.
And all those holes will be nice and tight around the supports and everything will be sealed up tight, so no leaks, no nothing. But
Yep.
the flat areas will have a ballasted system, which is a weighted system. But on the sloped areas, we had to have the mechanically fastened system so that it wouldn't slide off the roof.
Right. So this is a photo of B lower level. We've got some plumbing carriers that were pre-made. They came in. Ductwork is being installed. Walls are going up. You can see walls, rooms are actually being framed out here. So pretty soon, a week and a half, we'll have guys coming in here to field measure for cabinets, for wall panels, so on. A lot of hangers are in. This black pipe here is all the storm water from the roof. That's all tied in. Roof drains are installed at the roof. And this is just a photo of the rough, the electrical rough-in that will be going in each classroom. So this area here, you see this pipe here, there's cabinets here with sinks. And then these are various outlets for data, communication, and power. And that is it for photos.
Okay, questions for Al? Okay, thanks, Al. Moving on, we have some PCO and some procurement reviews. Some of these were items that we didn't deal with when we went on the FF&E and tech, but we now have items to award, right, Adam?
Right, so we'll be going over a construction change directive that the subcommittee approved during the past 2 weeks for one of the roofing items. A couple of items up for committee approval for the aerial lift and the Kubota tractor, and then a potential change order, as well as an increasement of allotment for materials testing. So just running down the line here. Let me share my screen. So should be looking at the construction change directive. So this was an item that came up on these sloped roofs where there was a question with regard to how basically the eaves were to be framed out. And the solution was to infill a piece of metal deck and tie it into the existing roof structure with the metal deck on one side and a bent plate on the other. There was some question with regard to whether or not this was part of the base scope of work and also how much it would cost. So, but as we know from the roofing work being a fairly important piece of the construction sequencing, rather than spend weeks identifying what the cost was going to be and getting all buttoned up, this was an item that was put before the subcommittee to approve on a time and material basis. So just in reporting back to the committee, this was an item that got approved by the subcommittee. If there's a potential change order that comes out of it, it'll be formulated and put in front of the committee for approval at that time. So there's no action item needed at this point. This is just an FYI. To the second item, we have the aerial lift. This was one of the items that came up during the last committee meeting with regard to Insalco's bid, the low bid for $12,990. At that point, we had paused, or the committee elected to not vote on this item because there was concerns about it being procured in time with the project. Over the past couple of weeks, we've talked about it with town facilities and kind of just reviewed the state of procurement. And so it's being put back forth in front of the committee, recommending award for this item. Scott and I took another look at the finances, and the delivery of this lift in January of 2023 should be able to be incorporated into the project finances without an issue. And it was the preferred lift preferred by town facilities, and they agreed that and not having it until that date would be acceptable. So if the committee elects to do so, the draft motion is in the Word file in the committee packet to award this aerial lift to Insalco. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that now?
How about we do the tractor as well, and then we can.
Fair enough. So this is one item, and then we also had the issue of the tractor where we did not receive any bids for the tractor as specified. In talking it through with TSKP, We actually found a Kubota vendor that has a state contract, so would not need to go out to bid. And it appears that there's a newer model of what effectively the town was looking for. So in working with Alan and Bill with town facilities, they identified the items that they would require for the work, or for the machinery rather. And the state contract bid or pricing came in at $37,696.07, which is just below what the estimate that TSKP had at $39,000. So that's another item that you have a draft motion in the Word file if you want to award this item to the Kubota vendor.
Okay.
And the brochure makes it look like we can use it to help with the FF&E now, driving things around inside.
Nice. Okay, so are there questions from the committee, or is there a motion that someone would like to make regarding, we have two separate motions, Anna, for these things. Mary?
If no one has any questions, I would be happy to make a motion.
Okay.
To award FF&E category EQ2A for equipment, outdoor maintenance of the aerial lift to Insalco Corporation in the amount of $12,990.
Okay, we have a motion from Mary regarding the aerial lift. Is there a second? Okay, Chris. Any final questions or comments? Then all in favor of approving that motion, please give me a sign. Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, I see a thumbs up from Rich, Tasha. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, then that passed unanimously. Okay, and then is there another motion for the tractor?
Yeah, I'm happy to make that motion as well to approve the quote from Contractor Equipment dated February 8th, 2022 in the amount of $37,696.07 for a Kubota tractor under state contract 17 PSX 0118.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Madison, thank you. Any final questions, comments? Then all in favor of approving the motion, please indicate. And Rich has a thumbs up on the screen. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. Those pass unanimously then.
Item for discussion. There's no paperwork for it, but there is a draft motion. This is to increase the allotment for IMTL, who is our testing agency. So they currently have a purchase order through the town for $80,000 for materials testing. The way that we typically structure this is we have an estimate of how much the testing is going to take. In this case, if it's $124,000 that they might go up to, but we don't allot that all at once. So that way we're not just allocating all the funds necessary because they are on a per inspection basis. So they come out hourly. So the motion here is to increase the allotment up to $105,000 and give another $25,000 of runway appropriated for their services.
Okay, I know IMTL has been busy out there. Questions regarding this? Then is there a motion to increase the purchase order amount for IMTL? Okay, Mary, thank you.
Me again? Yeah, I will make a motion to increase the purchase order amount for Independent Materials Testing Lab from $80,000 to $105,000 for ongoing testing services.
Okay, any other questions? Then all in favor of approving?
Can I just ask a question on this one? So, Adam, you feel like this is totally acceptable, normal?
Yes.
Within range. Scott, are you still here? Is this sort of, I don't have everybody on here anymore.
Yeah, this is Scott. Yeah, no, this is normal. We had allocated a budget, I think about 120,000 for testing. So we anticipated within the budget that you may expend up to that amount. Now,
I
with
remember you
that said,
talking
since
about
it's a-
potentially adding to this, but yeah,
Well,
okay.
since it's an hourly, by unit cost, we never allocate the full PO out of the gate, so we go as steps, similar to like we've done with abatement testing and processing. So this would just be the next step of loosening up a little bit more of our anticipated budget because they've expended the initial.
Okay, so this is all part of the big plan. I seem to recall you having said this in the past. Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, I think Mary needs a second. So for Tasha's sake, I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, thanks for keeping track of that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, thumbs up from Rich. And any opposed? Or any abstentions? Okay.
Last item up for tonight is a potential change order number 46R. This is for additional work for the concession stand leaching system. So if you recall, a couple months ago, there was a discovered condition where the leaching field for the concession stand wasn't in the correct spot. And it conflicted with a bunch of the utility works. So the PCO was proposed and approved by the committee for rerouting that septic system line to hook into the new building system. As the design development has gone along and there's been some coordination with the Department of Public Health Departments and reviewing the work with the field, there's additional work required to make those connections. Jeff and Richard, I'm not sure if you want to speak to the nuts and bolts or if Lauren from Fuss and O'Neill was able to join us to kind of just walk through the scope of work.
Yeah, I think it'd be good now for Lauren to introduce the layers of what happened here to clarify everything. So Lauren, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. So what you see in front of you is the final design that was approved by the Eastern Highland Health Department and the Connecticut Health Department to connect the existing concession septic wastewater to the new school system. The green line that you see is running from the existing septic tank from the concession stand. It will go down the access road or along the access road, come to a manhole that's circled in green. And from there, there's a drop in the manhole in order to get under some utilities to meet some grading and elevation concerns in that area in terms of pipe cover, and also to maintain the minimum and maximum slopes allowed by those two regulatory authorities before discharging that line into the new septic tank down below, right? So as this design was being completed, we did consider as-built conditions in the field. There were a number of conflicts with proposed conduits and water lines, electric lines that already had gone in. So we avoided those up at the top near the access drive. As we got further down, there was a conflict with an installed stormwater pipe that's outlined in blue. So in order to meet the separation requirements or the vertical distance between the crown of that storm pipe and the invert or the bottom of that green septic line going over it, that pipe needs to be dropped just slightly so the green septic line can go over it and get into that manhole. This PCO includes changes for, and Al, please correct me if I'm wrong, includes removing and reinstalling the stormwater pipe that's shown in blue so that we can get over that constraint, as well as the drop manhole, which was not considered in the original PCO that you saw, which was required by the regulatory authorities to, again, meet those maximum minimum slope requirements of the septic line going into that new tank down below.
If I could, add a comment here. I just want to remind the building committee that this was completely unforeseen, that the cause of this change, and unfortunately it happened to happen in 2 change orders, but the entire cause of those change orders was due to the fact that the septic system for the concession stand was not installed as indicated on the site survey. So we had to scramble, and Lauren's folks scrambled very quickly to come up with a solution. And that solution was either pipe the septic system from the concession stand to the school's new septic system, or build an entirely new septic field for the concession stand. That second option would have taken much, much longer, would have required testing of soils and a whole process through the health department. And so committee may recall that we had recommended that piping to the school's new septic system was the most expedient way to do it. But in that interim period, construction was proceeding. And so we ended up with now having to remove a pipe that was installed and reinstall a pipe. So consequently, it's unfortunate, but we had to undertake 2 change orders to execute this change. Lauren, thanks for your explanation.
Are there questions from the committee? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion then to approve PCO 046R? Thank you, Mary.
Happen to have all these up on this little screen here. So I will make a motion to approve PCO 046R dated January 28th of 2022 in the amount of $17,965.34 for concession stand leaching system changes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Steve, thank you. Chris, do you have a
I
question?
just want to understand, this work is sort of would be routinely done by BB?
Yes,
Do we
that's
hire
correct.
another contractor? What happens here?
No, that's BB's work.
So this is the estimate that they gave you, and that's the money that they're going to get when it's done.
Correct.
Okay. Feels like the right price for you for that length of pipe, Al?
Yeah, I reviewed the PCO before it went on, and I thought it was fair.
Okay.
There
Thank you.
is a lot of work to these existing structures as well. The pipe that was in here has to be removed, and the holes have to be plugged, and then new cores have to be made for this new pipe. So there is some additional work that is fairly complicated. So.
And I didn't hear it if it was said, but does the old field have to be ruined or ripped out? Or Lauren, is that the case? Do you specify that? How does that go?
A portion of the old field needs to be removed to install some of the new utilities going through that area, and the rest are to remain and they'll be backfilled.
You just abandon it, or you wouldn't
Yep.
say backfill it? What does that mean differently from abandoning it?
It's the same thing. It'll be abandoned in place.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the motion, please indicate. Any opposed or any abstentions? Okay. All right, thank you. And thank you, Lauren, for taking the time to join us tonight. I think that's it, Adam. Is that right?
Yeah, that is it.
Okay. And
Randy?
yes.
Hi, Randy. There are 2 things in the comments that I don't know if you wanted to speak on.
Okay, I did respond to Brian about the opportunity for public input on the agenda. We will put that on the agenda going forward.
Okay.
And then Ryan has suggested, which has come up before, that we might all visit the site. And I think that's a great idea. We would have to figure out a time that we could do it, but it would be, I think, be fantastic for the committee to see. And so I think we can try to arrange for that. And I don't know if it'd be regular committee meeting time or ahead of it, or, in some way to work around the people who are working there, and a time that's available for everybody that's on the committee. But I mean, I think, Al, is there any problem with having the committee come out? And if we can avoid all your subcontractors?
Yeah, no, that's possible. Right now, the site is very, very muddy. And we're gonna be in this mud season probably for another month or so. But yeah, we can arrange something, even if it's after the workers leave. We could definitely do that.
Okay.
So always see agenda and try to work through some times and looking at the schedule to see what might make sense. That'd be a good time to nail down some potentials and then query the committee on their availability.
Okay. That would be great. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone could tell me, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the design was envelope testing and testing the outside assemblies to make sure that they were as energy efficient as we expected. And there was one that was supposed to be done before we did the school, just to make sure we're putting things together properly. Has that been scheduled yet?
No, PVH will be doing that work, and that we have not scheduled them to do that test yet. It's not quite ready yet.
Great, okay, thank you.
Did you say BVH or do you mean CES?
BVH will actually be doing the testing. CES will be witnessing the test.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, then we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mary, thank you for making the motion tonight. Seconds from Steve. Then with that, we can be adjourned and you can log off. See you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Right,
Thank you,
everyone.
Randy.